All right, hello once again, Jeff Scott of Rankin Technical College. And just a couple quick things. I prettied up the table a little bit, as you can see. I've got the right entries in there now. I added some margin. I've got the blue here, the blue here. I've got the right names, the right years published, the right figures, etc. So how did I do that? Now, I'm only going to spend a minute telling you this. First of all, I wanted a border, but I wanted it not just around the table, but around the heading, and each data. All right. And I also said for the heading and the data for each one, add some padding. And for the heading and for anything which was the bottom row that had an ID of aqua, okay, make that aqua in color. I went back and added the right titles, the right year that they were created, and the right sales figures for each one of these. All right, so like I said, as you can see, so now if I run this, it looks a lot nicer than it did. It looks more, it's not perfect, but it's much more reminiscent of the table that you saw if you looked right here. So if you look at the two of them, again, I'd still have to do a little bit of work, but at least, for lack of better words, kind of getting there, right? All right. Okay, so it's again, it's a work in progress, but it's not bad. Okay, so let's jump back into the book here. So there was the HTML for the table before any formatting was done. All right, just the table row and the table heading. We do have a class that says left here, but we'll look at that in a bit, possibly. But that was the information. And that's probably just left justified, but I'm not sure. And that's what you had. In fact, I guess that left is, they're doing some centering there. So you notice how that's centered. These are left justified. Really, that probably would look better if it was centered. And that looks pretty centered. All right. So here's the table. Now notice what they've added. They've added a T-head section. They've added a T-body section. And they've added a T-foot section. So we can do that in our table as well. And that means that we can come in here, and I want to make sure I'm doing it the exact correct way. All right? So before we have this, we could have put this whole thing in a T-head section. All right? Then I'm going to grab all this, tab it over one, and end. There's my T-head. Then I can come down here into a T-body. This is all my body down here. So let's see. No. So there was the T-body. Boom, boom, boom. And that right here, this should all be moved over one. There we go. And then we can end our T-body. And finally, we have our T-footer. Move all this over, and we'll put our ending T-foot tag in there. Now, I did that very quickly. Could I have screwed up? Probably. Let's see if it changed anything in the way our table looks. No. All right. So why did we do it? You may have already guessed the answer to this. We set it up this way so that people who have any kind of physical limitations, this will help them. I mean, imagine trying to explain the concept of a table to someone who's blind. Here, though, by setting it up, it has been cordoned off or sectioned off so that it would be easier for a browser for the blind, for example, to be able to explain to somebody, okay, what that looks like, how that works, etc. Now, here's things that you can do with formatting. You can do it on the whole table. You can do it on rows. You can do it on headers. You can do it on data. All right? So let's look at these. So here's some CSS, and notice what we have there. We've got border collapse, collapse. All right, so there's the table. And there it is without collapse borders. Okay. So there's what it looks like. Without collapse borders, you get that chunky look here. But by saying collapse, it's going to look more like this. Okay? I don't know if mine will do that. The one that I created is I make it smaller or not. We can look. And no, it's not. All right? You can work with some of the CSS3 pseudo selectors with this, and that would have been much better if I would have done it probably like that. In other words, rather than just me taking that last row, I could have done nth child. Now when you do these, you've got to look at it that everything, for example, in the table, you could do it based on every row or on every item or whatever, but you can work with an nth child where you give it a number, the last child, all right, and then you can work with types. Why is that important? Well, look what we have here. Okay, what have they done? Well, they've come in here and they said we want the first child, so the first table header and the first table data to both be left justified. That's these. We want the second to be centered. That's these. And we want the nth child even to have a background color of silver. What does that mean? That's this what's called zebra striping that we have right here. All right? So let's see. If I were to come back in here and grab this code and put it in for my stuff, why it does that? Oh, I don't know. Control-C. I don't know if it'll take it that for a copy or not, but come back up here. It did. Good deal. Now, I'm mixing my own CSS with the stuff the book had, so this may end up becoming a lesson in futility for me, but I'm going to try it anyway just to see what it looks like. Alright, so here was my table. I put the zebra striping in. Okay, again, was this that big a thing? No. This is now left justified. This is now center justified. Alright, and I was able to use the CSS pseudo classes to do this. You'll notice all the dollar signs line up, etc. It's looking much more like the one in the book looked. Alright, again, by no means is it perfect. There's a lot of things that could still be worked on with it. Okay? You can take a table and you can put it inside of a figure. All right? So when you do that, you can use the fig caption. All right? Which is like using a table caption. All right? But there's a lot more things that you can do with a figure when you look at this. So see what they've done? Now they've got merged cells. A couple things about this, such as, you'll notice we've got a column here that is spanning 1, 2, 3, 4 columns. That's called a col span that you could use in order to do that. You can also span rows. So this is spanning one column, but it's spanning 1, 2 rows. Okay, there's a row span and a col span. And there's the associated CSS, or the associated HTML, I should say. All right. Here is one for accessibility. So notice what they've done here. Not only have they added the T head and the T foot, but they've got IDs added for the headers, and the scope saying it's columnar. They've got, headers here. They've got it all set up. It's not really going to look any different, but again, the idea is the easier that you can make it for someone who has some kind of a situation, call it whatever you want. We're not supposed to use the word disability more, but somebody who's physically challenged. The better you can make it for their browser, all right, the easier it's going to be for them to use things. Here is an example of a table nested within a table. Can you do that? Sure. Should you do that? Well, I don't like the way that looks, but you can. But notice they've got a table, and then inside of that table, they've got another table. All right. Here's a table with wrapping. Here's it without wrapping. So notice the difference. Here it wraps over as you make the screen size smaller. Here it does not. All right. You can say wrap, or you could say no wrap there to turn wrapping on or off. Here's a table that's been reformatted for smaller screens. I don't know about you, but to me that looks really bad. Probably want to do a lot more work on it than what they've done here. So here's the media query for the table. Here they've enhanced it. So again, what are they doing? Well, they're taking these 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 people, and they're separating them into areas. All right? So they've enhanced the table. Again, I'm not going to say, hey, they enhanced it, they made it look better, or they didn't. But what the author has been showing you in here is how you can work with tables. All right? And that's it for this chapter. So when we do come back, and we will, the next chapter that we're going to go over will be forms. So I think that probably I'll wait till tomorrow, but we'll do forms, and we'll do how to add audio and video to your website. All right, so I'll be back with that in a little bit.